Greetings, friends. It is quite an exciting moment again to be part of this AHSRA conference that is ongoing right now. And I want to congratulate each and everyone who has made it here, those who are presenting and those who are attending. Today, I'm going to share a little bit of some analysis that I have made on some data from the General Conference, and I'm entitling this analysis, Joys and Frustrations of Adventist Employees, Lessons Learned from the Global Voices of Adventist Teachers. And so let's get started with just a bit of background of this topic. We know that Adventist education is unique because it focuses on eternity. The dimension of spirituality is very much unique to Adventist education, and of course some other Christian institutions as well, as we may find in literature. The dimensions of Adventist education are many. Primarily the mental, the physical, the social and spiritual dimensions. So it is a holistic perspective of educating the students. It has been proven that Adventist students perform much better than non-Adventist students. I mean, students going to Adventist schools perform much better, especially in the United States. There's a study that has been done in the United States, and it's been proven that students who go to Adventist schools, they tend to stay longer in the church than those who did not go to Adventist schools. So you find a lot of positive things that are happening with Adventist education. And of course, we cannot emphasize all these benefits without talking about the role of the teacher, the teacher in an Adventist institution. So the Adventist teacher, we expect him or her to have specific spiritual characteristics, like the spiritual beliefs. They must be people of faith and a personal and their personal life and a loving God. They must have hope in a personal and loving God and desiring to be close to God and having a higher calling to serve God. These are some of the things that have come up in the literature, and also they must be they are known to be very good with their spiritual practices like prayer, devotion, and the study of the Bible. We expect the teacher to be a good role model as well, and as the Adventist teacher, by showing empathy, nurturing students, and thinking, speaking, and acting Christianly, and looking at each student as a child of God primarily than just a learner, as it is commonly seen in non-Adventist schools. Here is what McClintock said: Christianity is caught better than it is taught. That means, looking at it from the teacher's perspective, the teacher must be a good role model from the Christian perspective, to not rather than just talking about Christianity. Realistically, our students may not remember what we taught them, but they will remember the person who was the teacher. It is the values and the relationships that are the enduring legacy. And this is true. Students may forget. They may remember that you taught them a specific course, but they may not remember all the details. They will remember how you treated them, especially from the Christian perspective. The call to love and teach children, or students in general, is one of heaven's highest callings. Yet we have challenges with this calling. What are some of them? We see declining enrollment. We have challenging lifestyles, secularism, moral relativism, family brokenness that leads to behavioral issues and trauma from the students, shortage of qualified Adventist teachers. I've heard some even in a specific country where the Bible classes in an Adventist school were taught by a non-Adventist teacher. You can just imagine how bad that must actually be. Not necessarily that we're holier than other people, but somebody who does have a foundation of Adventism and the Christian education to be the one to teach Bible classes. Undesirable teacher salaries, this is a major thing. And then wars that displace many people. All these things are play in the process of teaching. But there's a research gap, and that is no known global voices trying to bring all the voices together as far as the challenges and the joys that teachers in Adventist schools face. So I decided to try to look specifically at that. And the plan was to go from this quotation from the Spirit of Prophecy, that the teacher is a shepherd. The teacher should be himself what he wishes his students to become. Teachers are the watch over their students, are to watch over their students, as the shepherd watches over the flock entrusted to his charge. They should care for souls as they that must give an account. We are to be accountable to God. And this is reason why the role of the teacher is so important. And that's the reason why we want to understand what is going on in their mind. The research questions, I had 3. What brings joy and satisfaction to church workers in Adventist education institutions? Secondly, what do church workers dislike in Adventist education systems? And how can church employees' work experience be improved in Adventist educational institutions? And so I simply looked at the Global Church Member Survey. And not a Global Church Member Survey. This was the Institutional Workers Survey that was we completed last year. And you can find the report at adventistresearch.info. The study itself included 13,669 workers, church workers worldwide. But of those, 9,505 were teachers in all different levels of education. And they came from the 13 divisions. And the data that I'm reporting on right now comes from 7 languages that were included in the analysis. So again, this is the Institutional Workers Survey that you can have access to. This survey had primarily quantitative data, but there were sections for qualitative data where they were asked, what are the joys? What makes you happy? What are the joys of being a teacher in Adventist school? And what challenges, what makes you unhappy, what frustrations do you have there? So here are the findings that came up in the study on the first research question. The joys, they said, it comes from being involved in a God's mission, and also it comes from freedom to express one's own faith, practice one's own faith, living one's own faith, serving God, and worshiping God. I looked further, I found another source of joy is working with people with shared faith. So this creates a Christian work environment. They feel they have peace of mind. They can rest on Sabbath. There's no contradiction in the belief system because they share the same beliefs. They felt, a number of them mentioned that they felt that they could grow spiritually because the Bible study is part of the workplace. They feel a brotherly atmosphere. There's regular prayer with the colleagues and students, and there are faith building opportunities that came up. Then I looked at another source that was meaningful workplace experience. Like they felt, some felt there's a positive relationship among employees. There's some kind of family spirit, fellowship with colleagues, service to students, openness, and appreciation. Although the same thing, that appreciation, came out also on the other side, as we're going to look very soon. The other source was ministry of teaching. They feel they are training future leaders, the integration of faith learning, and making a difference in students' lives. That was also something that was very, very much appreciated by the teachers. Now, on the second question, what is the source of frustration for them? What stresses teachers in Adventist schools? Again, these are responses coming from all the 13 divisions. So this is not, the data is not presented by division. It is just capturing the global perspective. The first one, of course, this is expected. This has been published several times in Journal of Adventist Education, that financial challenges are real in our Adventist schools. So financial challenges were first ones, limited funds, low salaries, limited financial support to schools, a limited retirement contribution. These are real issues that teachers face. Then there was a Christian attitude and practices as well. This is unfortunate that people are working in Adventist institution, but they feel that at a certain point there is an unchristian attitude and practices. And I think if we can give some consolation, we need to understand that although Christian Adventist institutions should be better than non-Christian schools, they are still run by human beings. So hypocrisy, legalism, gossip, gender discrimination, these are some of the things that came up in the data. The other thing is ineffective leadership practices, such as strong hierarchical authority, dictatorial leadership, unfair personnel transfer, worldly, boastful leaders, and nepotism. I hope this is not happening in your respective institutions, but these are some of the things that came up in the data. Management challenges, like too much bureaucracy, top leaders traveling too much, failure to retain good teachers, lack of adaptation to local reality and needs, and so forth and so on. These are management challenges that were reported as well in different places. Another thing, we have a challenging relationship, poor communication, church interference, limited school autonomy, pastors being valued over educators, therefore teachers are not really having a voice, limited support from the church, misunderstood mission role because people just think that, hey, that's not as important as other ministries. Frequent leadership changes, so there's no leadership sustainability, and clergy-dominated leadership where people are given positions to be school leaders, university and college leaders, simply because they are pastors, not because they were trained to be education leaders. These are some of the things that frustrate. The last part here, workload. Too much work and little salary. We have also workplace spiritual challenges like hatred, greed, secularism, dishonesty, trust being ignored, and leaders' weak spirituality. These are some of the things also that came up in that area. So, how can we improve? We need to choose godly, experienced, and mission-focused and innovative leaders. On the financial challenges, we need to find creative ways to generate substantial income beyond just tuition, because tuition alone is not enough. On the unchristian behavior and attitude, we need to choose godly educators and cater to their spiritual needs and other needs as well. And on the worldly practices, we need to foster that IFL through training, prayer, and intentional planning. So, in conclusion, since our time is running out, we must take good care of our teachers if we expect to continue seeing quality Adventist education. We cannot do lousy work in taking care of them and then expect the same quality of education that is expected of us from the book of education. We need to hear their voices. We need to meet their various needs, and we need to support Adventist education much better. The fact, and I have said this in the past, the fact that people who go to Adventist schools, they tend to stay longer in the church, remain longer in the church. This really means that we need to rethink even evangelism and how we can improve all that support to Adventist education. Just as the Adventist home is supposed to be a little heaven on earth in the family, Adventist educational institutions should intentionally be a little heaven in society for both the educators and the students. Because if we make it a little heaven in the community, in the church, guess what? We will see also the spirituality of the students going higher, and also the spirituality of the teachers, and the church itself will become stronger. Thank you so much for your attention. And unfortunately, I want to be with you to address the questions. You can always email me when you have the time. Thank you, and God bless you all.